Alrighty, welcome back. Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, all having budget crises, just like we are. And the federal government not doing a whole lot better ever since the president unveiled his $3.7 trillion budget, shall we say. Well, Democrats and Republicans have been wrestling over where to cut, what not to cut, and all kinds of things. Now, if Congress doesn't find some common ground, the country will run out of money. And as they have threatened, they're going to shut down the government.
Yeah, 9 days, supposedly. Joining us
some
now.
people would say that'd be a good thing, but nonetheless.
To talk about it, Congressman Brian Bilbray, thank you so much for joining us.
Great to be with you.
Okay, we'll talk about the shutdown in just a moment, but first we want to talk about the pirate situation. What's going on?
Well, it's a sad situation that, 2 Americans traveling around the world have been murdered by pirates. But the problem there is that here in San Diego, not only is it an Escondido family, the parents of one of my constituents, but this connection with San Diego and Somalia has always been one because we have a pretty large Somalian community. But now we're seeing a connection to the fact that pirates are making money in Somalia, being pirates, jumping on ships in the Suez, jumping off on the Panama Canal, and then coming up here with $100,000, $60,000. And they used to, until 2 years ago, be required to wait to process their sanctuary petition in Mexico. Now, with the new administration, they're being allowed directly into the country. So now we've got a connection where administration may be allowing people right into this country without any real processing that are directly tied to the Somali pirate situation. And it's something that kind of evolved. Originally, they thought, President Martinelli in Panama kind of told me, look, these must be terrorists. They have 60 to 100,000, and he thought that was Al-Qaeda. Well, we just had someone state, oh, I'm not Al-Qaeda. I earned this being a pirate, and not understanding that that's still international terrorism.
Yeah. Exactly. And you have a theory for how to solve this thing.
Well, I think the answer is, look, anybody that knows the boating community knows how you create a no-enter zone. Unless you have a transponder, about $400, you do not enter a certain area. And instead of waiting for the pirates to attack somebody, we should basically say, if you enter this area and you do not have a transponder that tells us who you are, what the ship is, and where you're going, we will treat you as if you're a pirate and basically create the exclusion zone, like we did in San Diego Harbor. You're not allowed in certain parts of San Diego Harbor, and if you are intercepted by armed police. And that's how we should basically get the international community to create an exclusionary zone that anybody caught in there without a transponder will be treated as a pirate. Oh, and by the way, good news, I talked to Lamar Smith, the chairman of the Judiciary Committee. These pirates can be tried under American law as pirates. And I guess basically my advice is that if we send them, don't bother with Gitmo, send them to Texas. Texas knows how to take care of pirates.
Yeah, Texas will do it, no doubt.
Noted. Okay, should we talk about what's going on here in our country?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
I think the question that a lot of people here in San Diego are worried about is what's going to happen in Madison and in Ohio and Indiana. Could it happen here in San Diego, in California?
Well, I don't think so. But look, because the politics have swung so far from one side to the other, the biggest concern I have is those of us in the House of Representatives. Last week we stayed up until 4:30 in the morning. We worked night after night after night to get a continuing resolution done, a way to finance the budget. There was a lot of tough cuts we didn't want to have to confront, but we know we have to confront these things now and quit putting it off. So we stayed and worked until late night, right into the morning, almost to dawn. The Senate went off on vacation. We didn't leave until we finished our work. Harry Reid sent everybody home, and now he's coming back and saying, well, my God, there's a crisis because we only have a few days. Frankly, that is kind of frustrating. And then to have somebody that basically said, 2 years ago, we just need a temporary huge spike in spending to help stimulate the economy. Because they didn't get the job creation they claimed, now they're saying, oh, well, we've got to continue this as the norm. And I think that's like somebody borrowing money from you for one time and then coming back the next time and say, oh, but you owe me this from now on. We've got to get that spending down, and we need to do it now, not wait for another 6 months to another year.
There's a lot of pain in those cuts.
There is. There's huge amount of pain. And, that's the real trouble. We're looking at the fact that we either make the tough decisions now and take some pain now, or it's going to be much worse because the interest payment that we're sending to China is increasing. And more, that's going to mean the cuts are going to have to be much larger, much more painful in the future. And a lot more innocent people are going to be hurt by cuts in the future than what they would be confronted with right now. And that's why those tough decisions need to be made earlier instead of later. And, let me remind you, the voters in 06 threw the Republicans out because they weren't willing to make these tough decisions in 06. Last year, they threw the Democrats out because they weren't willing to make those decisions last year. Now's the time for Democrats, Republicans, Independents to kind of get together and say, look, there's no longer can we kick the ball down the field, down the court. We're going to have to address it now. And there's no way we can go home to our constituents if we don't have it. That's one reason why you saw the House stay in session and finish this job before we came home, because there was no way I or a lot of other people in the House of Representatives wanted to come home and face our constituents until we got that job done.
Before we let you go, just really quickly, we talk about 9 days till they shut down the government. It's just, most people just see this as a joke. How can you shut down the government?
Well, the problem is
it's just a threat. It's an empty threat.
Yes, the president, what happens is Harry Reid is saying, we're not going to do anything but continue existing spending. The Republicans have made some really tough cuts, and I understand that. What Harry ought to be doing, and the president ought to do, is say, okay, look, here's our proposal of cuts. Things like, don't build a building in Washington to a department that doesn't even exist now. Let's eliminate the huge subsidy for ethanol and the ethanol manufacturers, which cost us $6 a gallon every time we're forced to put it in our gasoline. Okay, Harry, Mr. President, show us the cuts that you want to make that will balance, and then we will negotiate where you want the cuts to be done. But don't sit there and say the status quo will be okay for right now. It's not okay. If it was okay, the Democrats would still be in control of the House of Representatives. The president's numbers would have been much higher. If we start making the decisions, I think it'll be great for everybody. But we've got to stop saying, give us a little more time of doing nothing. That's not an option.
Yeah, time's not helping anything in this case.
No.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We
Thank you
appreciate
very
your
much.
time.
Appreciate it.
Gonna get out.